buy yourself an Arduino, simply Google Arduino and look for the shopping on the Arduino. To start off, you can either buy the Arduino separately, or I would suggest buying them in a kit. Kits generally come with things like breadboards and an Arduino with some cables and some attachments that you can start playing with. Some kits even have things such as instruction manuals with how to use some of these, such as the Program Guidebook. To get familiar with the Arduino, we have a number of pins, both on the top here, on the bottom, then we have usually a little reset button somewhere on the Arduino. These pins here, as labeled, are the digital pins. So those pins can either be 0 or 5 volts, with some of them being the squiggly line, meaning the special PWM signals, which can turn on and off really quickly to pretend to be somewhere between 0 and 5 volts. When you press the reset button, it'll reset your code rather than you having to turn off the power and turn the power back on. This is a good debugging tool to see how codes work as they just start up, in case you miss it when you first upload your code. Then we have, usually on the Uno, we have 5 analog pins marked with the analog in, but it can also work for analog out. We have special ones such as V in, which is to power the board through this pin here rather than through the DC plug connector. Or we can use the DC plug connector or the USB to power it with 5 volts. We have the reset pin in case you want to make your own reset button, in case you want to implement this and you don't have access to the PCB. We have the 3.3 volt rail in case you have some special kind of hardware that runs off 3.3. The 5 volt rail, which is our common rail that we use for most things. And then we have 2 grounds, one for the voltage in, and then one for the 5 or the 3 volts. And this would be used for our circuits. We also have another ground over here and an analog reference just in case. Once you have yourself an Arduino, what you're going to want to do is come to the Arduino homepage. Once you're in the homepage, there's a lot where you can actually buy yourself an Arduino straight from the homepage, but we're going to go to the software tab. And we want to download the Arduino IDE. Now, this can be different depending if you're on Windows or Mac or even Linux. I typically go with the Windows installer. Just download, and it'll download the exe, which will just run once it's finished downloading. Once it's downloaded, all you have to do is run. Cool. We want to agree to the new one. We want to click everything because we want all of them. We're just going to put it to the C drive and it'll start installing. At the end, this is coming up. We're going to just click install. Cool. Now that it's completed, we should see the shortcut open. And this is all it takes to get started with Arduino. This is the Arduino IDE, which can also be called its environment. To get started with a new one, I like to go to Examples, Basics, and we go Bare Minimum. This opens up 2 voids, the void setup and the void loop. Void setup is where your code will start. It'll go through each line only once, and then it will stop, and then it will go through the void loop and repeat here as many times until you lose power to the controller. In your void setup, what you want to do is you want to use a function called pin mode to assign inputs and outputs to your Arduino based on the digital and analog pins. So for this test, we're just going to want to go pin mode 13 because that's the onboard LED on an Arduino Uno, and we're going to want to make it an output, making sure to make it all caps so that the Arduino recognizes it. Now that it's an output, we can go down to void loop We can do a digital write to pin 13, and we can turn it on by turning it high. High is the same as a high voltage or something along those lines, but we're basically sending the voltage to that pin on the Arduino. Then, because we want to see it on for a little while, we're going to put a little delay in there, about half a second. The delay function is in milliseconds. So 1000 milliseconds is 1 second. We then want to go another digital write to turn it off. We want to change the voltage on the pin to a low voltage so that we won't get any light showing. But because this will loop back around here almost instantaneously, as soon as we go off, it's going to try and put it high again. So what we need at the bottom here is we need a little delay. We need to put about half a second again. And this code should run back and forward and just blink an LED every half a second. There you go, as you can clearly see on the Leonardo, we have a blinking LED test light just over here.